Hello and welcome to day 12 of my 30 videos in 30 days series. I came up with the idea for today's video while I was working at my summer job. I am a high school auto shop instructor, and in the summertime I work part-time for a construction company. Today me and one other guy replaced a pergola on the front of a house. It was replaced about 3 years ago using the wrong material, and the boards had really warped and twisted, so we removed that one and we installed a new pergola using rough sawn cedar. Not only did the last person use the wrong lumber, I believe they used the wrong screws. The screws that were holding this together made taking it apart way more of a chore than it needed to be. The screws that were used on it were designed to either be used with a square Robertson drive or a Phillips drive, which meant that after 3 years they really weren't going to work with either of the drives. We ended up using a Sawzall and cutting a lot of the screws off. I have changed the screws that I've used over the years. I switched from the Phillips screw with the little plus sign to the Robertson screws, which is the square drive. I really prefer the square drive, a lot fewer stripped out screws. Even the Phillips drives is a huge improvement over the slotted screw of yesteryear. I have removed a couple of bowling lanes in my life, and this box here is the bolts that hold a bowling lane down inside of a bowling alley. These bolts are from a 1959 bowling lane. They're fairly large slotted heads. I couldn't imagine installing an alley's worth of bowling lanes using slotted heads. Yet, we got them all out. These 1959 slotted head screws came out way better than the I can be used with the Phillips or Robertson bit screws today. The screws that we put the pergola back together with are shape-wise fairly similar to these screws. Technology-wise, it's much closer to this screw. It has the threads that go both directions. Both of these have Torx head on them. I really like the Torx head. The Torx head very rarely strips out. This screw is made by Fastcap, but it has a really flat head on it. These screws have amazing holding power, holding things like cabinets to walls, or just holding power on something where I don't want a screw to pull through. I'd like to know in the comments which screw is your favorite and why. I really like the Robertson head. Not because it's the best, but because it's one of the cheapest. It's the same price as the Phillips screw, and I believe it's a much better screw than a Phillips screw. I believe it's quite a bit better screw. I believe it's a lot better bit. I believe the bits last a lot longer. The biggest problem I have with the Phillips screw isn't so much with the screw, but a half worn out bit will strip out even a good screw. There are some screws, like these little panhead screws, that only come in Phillips, and I'm fine with that. If they came in a square drive, I would buy them in a square drive though. I am glad the slotted screw is the thing of the past. I hated slotted screws. I always hated slotted screws. Torx head screws, I'm still up in the air on it. I think they work really nice, and if I'm going to buy an expensive screw like this, a fairly specific screw, a lot of these are 75 cents to $1.50 a piece for different styles of these Torx headed screws, and they replace some lag bolts that are quite a bit larger. The strength of this steel is quite strong compared to a lot of the older bolts. The shear strength of this screw is quite a bit more than this sheetrock screw here too. These sheetrock screws really don't have much for shear strength. If you try to take something apart that's assembled with these, you find that these screws break quite easily. A screw like this is not going to break very easily. I guess this really comes down though to is the screws that we had to take out today in that pergola that could be used with a Phillips or a square drive were some of the worst screws I've ever taken out in my life. It added at least an hour to that job, and they weren't even that good of screws. If you had one screw left, you could easily break the screw off. The problem is when it's held on by 4 screws and you can't get 3 of the 4 out, you're going to have to Sawzall at least 2 of them off so you can break off the last one. Please leave comments on what screws you like the best and why. Please subscribe to my channel if you like this and you want to make sure you don't miss any of my other 30 videos in 30 days series. And until next time, peace.